Hey, architecture firm owners and emerging leaders. Get ready for unparalleled insight into the development of a world-class architecture firm and a worldwide organization driving the digital transformation of the design and construction industry. With Build Smart, the podcast that's changing how our profession operates. We share the incredible stories behind innovation in the building industry with my friend and co-host, Patrick McLeamy, FAIA, former CEO of the international architecture firm, HOK.
You know, Yamasaki's office or firm lasted during his lifetime. And when he passed away, I think that was the end of the Yamasaki office. Helmut did not want that. He wanted a firm that would live out and grow beyond the founders.
In Season 1, discover the untold stories behind HOK's meteoric rise, from 150 employees in St. Louis to a powerhouse with over 1,900 staff members and 27 offices worldwide.
You know, they weren't as polite as the Kojima people. That was just boom. And anytime you have a creditor, whether it's Kojima or the bank, that wants their money, unless you can raise money someplace else, you are out of business.
Bankrupt. And hold on tight for Season 2, where Patrick takes us on a new adventure as chairman of Building Smart International, shaping the future of digital transformation in the design, construction, and operation of built assets.
Ian Howell, Ken Harold, and I, Ken was my technical representative from HOK. The three of us took a tour of Europe of 5 cities in 5 days. Very busy time.
Simply follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Smart now and uncover lessons that will transform you and your architecture firm. Hey, architecture firm owners and emerging leaders. Get ready for unparalleled insight into the development of a world-class architecture firm and a worldwide organization driving the digital transformation of the design and construction industry. With Build Smart, the podcast that's changing how our profession operates. We share the incredible stories behind innovation in the building industry with my friend and co-host, Patrick McLeamy, FAIA, former CEO of the international architecture firm, HOK.
You know, Yamasaki's office or firm lasted during his lifetime. And when he passed away, I think that was the end of the Yamasaki office. Helmut did not want that. He wanted a firm that would live out and grow beyond the founders.
In Season 1, discover the untold stories behind HOK's meteoric rise, from 150 employees in St. Louis to a powerhouse with over 1,900 staff members and 27 offices worldwide.
You know, they weren't as polite as the Kojima people. That was just boom. And anytime you have a creditor, whether it's Kojima or the bank, that wants their money, unless you can raise money someplace else, you are out of business.
Bankrupt. And hold on tight for Season 2, where Patrick takes us on a new adventure as chairman of Building Smart International, shaping the future of digital transformation in the design, construction, and operation of built assets.
Ian Howell, Ken Harold, and I, Ken was my technical representative from HOK. The three of us took a tour of Europe of 5 cities in 5 days. Very busy time.
Simply follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Smart now and uncover lessons that will transform you and your architecture firm. My name is Mark Arlepage, and you are listening to EntreArchitect podcast, where each week I speak with inspiring, passionate people who share their knowledge and expertise, all to help you build a better business as a small firm entrepreneur architect. This is episode 359, Demar Matthews, Unearthing a New Aesthetic for Black Architecture. This episode of EntreArchitect podcast is supported by our platform sponsors. ARCAT, the online resource delivering quality building material information, CAD details, BIM, specifications, and so much more, all for free. FreshBooks, the cloud-based accounting software that makes running your small firm easy, fast, and secure. Spend less time on accounting and more time doing the work you love. And Gusto, the easy online payroll and benefits service built for modern small businesses like ours. In other words, a people platform. So thanks to ARCAT, FreshBooks, and Gusto for supporting the EntreArchitect community of small firm architects. Demar Matthews, welcome to EntreArchitect Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you here, Demar. Demar Matthews is a Los Angeles-based architectural designer, theorist, and creative. Demar is the founder and principal of Off Top Design. He also works at the Architecture and Design Museum in Los Angeles as a curator exhibitions associate. Born in Moreno Valley, California, Demar received his bachelor's from HBCU Lincoln University in Pennsylvania and his master's of architecture at Woodbury University, where he was awarded the Graduate Thesis Prize for his project, Black Architecture, Unearthing the Black Aesthetic, which is what we're going to talk about today, because I'm super interested in where that is today and what you're doing with that today. Demar believes architecture and good design should not only be for the privileged few. Every community deserves to be proud of the built environment around them, and the built environment around them should be based on the cultures of the people who live there, regardless of income, race, and gender. So, Demar, I shared a little bit about you. What we do here at EntreArchitect Podcast is we dive into our guest's origin story. So I would love for you to go back as far as you want to go back, what inspired you to become an architect, and share that story from that moment to where we are today.
Sure. So, I guess all right, I guess if it's about architecture, I could start around age, I guess we'll say 15, 16, when everyone kind of starts to drive.
Yeah. So middle
And
school, early high school.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I'm from Moreno Valley, and that's about, 50 miles east of LA. And, the scale of buildings are a lot different down there. And I would always find myself, just driving somewhere, whether it would be kind of Riverside or even all the way out to LA. And I never really knew why. I was just driving. And
Yeah.
I knew that I wanted to be around taller buildings, but I didn't, it was still kind of, I guess, manifesting in my head what I was ultimately going
Right.
to do.
So you would just hop in the car and go. You just go on
Yeah.
an adventure, see where the car takes you, and land somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I did that too as a teenager. As soon as I got my license, that was the first thing I did. Is I just drove wherever the car took me.
It's nice, because before you don't realize how your perspective is kind of so small because of what you see.
Right.
And and I didn't know what this was gonna be later. And I ended up going to college in Pennsylvania. Lincoln University is where I did my undergrad. And I'm a first generation college student. So I didn't really know how to handle college, I didn't plan on going initially. I was getting kicked out of schools and high schools. And, I went to about 3 schools. And by the end, I'm just thinking, well, I don't know what's going to be next, but I ended up getting into Lincoln University, luckily.
Did you
And
have a focus when you decided to go there? Did you know what you wanted to do?
No. Well, I thought about architecture at that point, but the school didn't have architecture.
Yeah.
So I was kind of just trying to navigate and say, okay, what else do people do to make money? And which is a weird place to navigate for a first generation college student, where you're trying to figure out, oh, you got into college, what do you do?
Yeah. Right.
So I just went towards kind of the tried and true moneymaker positions, or I guess degrees. So I went with bio and religion as a dual degree, and that's what I graduated with. And I wanted architecture still, but just kind of trying to navigate. And once I graduated, I took about 3 years off from school, and I was working full time, mostly in healthcare. But it just, I finally was making money for the first time ever. And but I just was really unhappy with the position. no matter
So
which position
what
it
in
was,
health?
because
What were you doing in healthcare?
I was a national, or I was a territory manager for a DME, which is durable medical equipment. I was mostly breathing equipment or ventilators, oxygen, things like that. I would have to have in services at hospitals and with patients to show them how it works and
Yeah.
speak about certain things like that.
And in your schooling with biology, that sort of educated you for that sort of role. That was where you went when you had that sort of degree.
Right.
Right.
And I
Okay.
was thinking, that I would eventually go to medical school or
Yeah.
something. And I
Yep.
was kind of just trying to figure it out. And I just didn't realize how much I hated medicine.
It just was not where you were landing.
No, it
Yeah.
was not. And I started, because I'd started a master's in public health, and I lasted about 3 months, and I just said, I got to get out of here. I don't know what this is. And so I just was in a big searching phase for a while, and um, maybe about at least 6 months, I was just meditating and reading and trying to figure out where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And I was always into some sort of uh, creative expression, whether it was through painting or clothes design, just building small scale things. And I was building my bed when I was 19
Yeah.
because I thought it was so cool to just build your own little thing. And um, so I finally, went back towards architecture and applied at Woodbury, and I think maybe one more place, I forget where. Um, and they allowed me in with a really random mix of portfolio images somehow. And so I think that's really how I kind of got into architecture was at that point. I guess I had finally started to realize, because I was still driving around
Yeah.
at this point. It never kind of stopped in my life, and especially when I'm trying to think of something,
Yeah.
I was
It's
realizing
meditative.
that yeah, but
Yep.
specifically to go towards these buildings that I
Hmm.
don't often see in my own neighborhood. and
Yes.
and it was kind of me figuring out that this is why I've been driving around these buildings.
Right.
I like buildings.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
When in the
mm,
story, so as soon as you got your license, you started doing that. You went off to school, did your thing. That wasn't what it was. All through this, you're driving, still seeking out architecture, right? The buildings of architecture, not the profession, the buildings of architecture, sort of
right.
subconsciously going toward the buildings. When did it become? When did it manifest that, oh, this is something I could do, and there's a profession for me to do that? When did you sort of did you know as a child that there was, because a lot of architects, when they tell their story, there's a moment in their story when they discovered what art, that there's a profession of architecture, right? That there's somebody who does that kind of stuff, and I could do that. When was that for you? Was that sometime during that 15-year-old driving, or was it later when you started thinking, well, maybe this is something for me? Let me go figure out what this is.
Yeah, I think that it probably started around, like, we're figuring out that architecture is an option. Um, Probably around when I got to college. I wasn't, I really didn't even know what kind of things college offered to
Right.
kids. I was really green because I just knew nothing about it. I went to
Yep.
the school sight unseen, sent my money off right before the deadline. So I just
So
went and said, "Oh, this is it."
when you left California and went to Pennsylvania, that first time was I'm starting college, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought the school was in downtown Philadelphia or something because of how the brochure put it.
Yeah.
And I went down there, and it is literally an Amish country. And there I was,
Wow.
it was a bit of a shell
Yeah,
shock.
I know Amish country. I'm a Jersey boy, so it's it's
Okay.
I could imagine that it was a major culture shock when you got there. Like, whoa, where am I? What am I doing here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two stoplights in the whole town. Yeah,
How far was
it
it
was a
from
little
the
bit of
city?
a culture shock. Only about 40 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
not
within
too
within a
bad.
quick ride, so you could still do your drives.
Yeah, and gave me enough time to kind of breathe and process. But I think that while I was around there is where it kind of started to pique my interest in terms of could that be something?
Mm-hmm.
Because I never really saw it growing up or anything. I didn't know anybody, but at this point, I still hadn't known any Black architects personally. I just didn't know
Yeah.
anyone. I would say that it really sort of manifested in terms of considering that this is an option probably around 2020. I mean, yeah, probably about 2 years after graduating from my undergrad, when I was kind of doing this deep dive on options and kind of ways to kind of express my creativity, but without kind of just going into art, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have this pull towards architecture. It sort of manifests in those drives after, in between knowing that this isn't what I want in medicine. What do I want? Going out, sort of just trying to figure out who you are and what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And
Yeah.
you decide, oh, let's try architecture. Let's try this thing. So how did Woodbury fit into the story?
So I think my title at the time was a national recruitment manager for this hospital chain or this hospital corporation. And I was finally, I was really making okay money. And I say that because I've never made money before. I was always in poverty.
Yeah.
And so it was hard to leave because it was kind of financial security
Yeah.
or stability. But I knew that I wasn't going to be happy no matter how long it kind of went. So,
How difficult was
would
that decision? Because I
that's
mean,
it's
it's not just I'm just going to change professions. Life is going to be fine. This is, if I leave this, that money stops. That money that I never had, now I have it. I could do this for the rest of my life, make decent money. I won't be happy, but I'll make decent money. But I'm not happy, and so there
yeah,
you have to choose between making myself happy and having the security of that money. How difficult was that decision?
that's it. It was tough at first. I knew that I wouldn't stop being happy, but it's like, even my mom, who is so supportive, but she was like, why would you leave your job? You making money finally.
Yeah.
And, we don't really know to say I'm going to go back to school. I was the first person to go. So she's like, well, you got your degree. What you
Right.
gonna
You're
go
done.
back for?
Go make your money
Yeah.
now. Yep.
So she was kind of worried in that sense. But I just have never been a person to kind of sit in something when I'm not content. So that made it a little easier to quit the job. And I had some savings and I put some money up. Didn't last long thanks to architecture, but yeah, it was but it was okay. Yeah, I think that's really how the kind of transition happened.
Yeah. And then so did you apply directly to Woodbury and say that's where I want to go?
Yeah, and I didn't know about architecture schools. I didn't know what SciArc was and any of these things. So yeah, I really just applied through kind of what I was looking at and what I thought could kind of work for my schedule because I was still gonna be working a lot. I
Yeah.
didn't know how much, but I knew I would still be working. So yeah, really, I just applied, and thank goodness they were. I don't know, someone was feeling friendly that day because I didn't really submit a real portfolio.
And so you got in, and how did Woodbury work out for you?
Ultimately, it was fine. I think one of the real positives was the small, I guess, class size, and so you get to spend time with a professor if it or most before COVID, you're able to spend time
Right.
with a professor. Um, I definitely had some challenges there too. Ultimately, I really liked the school, but yeah, there's challenges, and I don't know that if you don't go to a historically Black college that you're ever gonna get out of the kind of challenges that I'm really speaking about. But it's just to be the only black person in your grad class for 3 years is, and this is through graduate school, and then the undergrad program, there may be 1 to 2 black men there. So it's just, it's a little weird because it's a different style of major where now, all your work is public and all your work gets critiqued.
Right.
And I didn't realize the certain barriers that are kind of there for, and with that kind of thing. One, to just, I guess, architecture has its own language, and I didn't have that language. And I think I would figure that everybody kind of has that struggle, but most of the students come in with a background in architecture. But I really
because you're talking about graduate school,
right?
So a lot of graduate architecture graduates came from an undergraduate architecture program,
yeah,
or some other related field, and they're going to go get their master's in architecture in order to have that degree,
right. And so it was tough to figure out how to speak.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that, a lot of people tell me now, oh, you're so well spoken. I kind of laugh about it because, where I grew up and there's a different style of speaking. And it's, when I get into school, I don't know how many times that I was trying to explain an idea or a concept, but it was going over everyone's head because I couldn't speak it in their language.
Yeah, you didn't have the words.
No. So that I would say that that's kind of a tough thing, being understood, and this little kind of paranoia about, we also didn't have any black professors at Woodbury, any black architecture professors. And if I was never shown black architecture, I was never shown architecture that was in a black community. And, when you look at your school and then just kind of general architecture, you can kind of understand why you're not seeing that. So it kind of will put you in like a bit of an isolated, or make you feel a little bit isolated at times.
Yeah.
Yeah, but ultimately the experience at Woodbury was good.
Were they supportive? Did they recognize the situation? I'm sure they did not recognize the depth of the situation, but did they recognize that you were feeling different because you were the only black student in the program? There's no black professors. You're not learning anything about black history. There's nothing. It's just you're just which is, from their point of view, you're in a program with architects and you're learning architecture. They don't know any better either, right? And that's the problem, right? That's there's the problem. And so, were they supportive? Did they sort of recognize anything?
So I had the moment of with the article.
Explain that, because I read it. I know what happened, but explain it for the people who are listening who have no idea what happened.
Sure. So I was we were in a critique, and the class was a really small class, maybe 6 of us at the most. And the professor is speaking about the work on the board, all of our work, and they're saying, oh, I don't know, they just decide to say who each person can be like. And, so he's going, you could be like Eisenman, you could be like Gary, you could be like, etc. And then he finally gets to me, and they're like, you could be like Obama. I don't know. I don't know any black architects. And, this is in a class, this is a lie. This is in front of a studio.
Yeah. This isn't just you and him face to face. This is in front of an audience.
No. So I'm so mad, and I'm sitting here trying to figure how to, when I already have been feeling isolated and kind of paranoid, this sort of thing that always creeps up on somebody. And then when it's like put out on display, I almost wanted to, I guess coming from the environment I grew up in, you just handle things a completely different way.
Right.
And
you want to get angry.
Yeah.
And you want to show it.
Right. But I know that that's really probably not the right thing to do.
Right. Yep.
And so it was hard because I just sat there, and as I felt completely disrespected, I just got to look, and I'm thinking, how is this, how is this okay that I have to take this, and so I got an assignment that night, and it was about intertextuality, which is where you take pieces of text and you kind of put them together to make them form your own meaning or your own paragraph or whatever. And I did that assignment, and that was only, it was only needed to be for a paragraph. But after I sent that assignment, I did another full page of intertextuality that was speaking really just from Black designers and architects, and I took pieces of them saying how they feel to be the only Black person in a room, and then I explained to him what that situation made me feel like and why I think it was
So you did
uncalled
that in
for.
the assignment. By doing the
Mhm.
assignment, you explained it to him.
Yeah,
So
I was so thankful that that was our assignment that
yeah, it gave you some
day.
therapy, but some way to
Yeah,
let it out without raging.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so the next day the professor asked to meet, and so I went up to the school and we met, and they apologized and said, they can't believe they did that, and etc. And they actually offered, one, to mentor me, and then two, uh, they suggested that I write about it because of how much I wrote in that first,
Yeah. Yeah.
that first piece. And so I did do that, and so now we have a pretty good relationship, which is, I was nervous about that because it could have just went the other
It
way,
could have gone either way.
and I would have just felt even more isolated and thought that now I can't even go to my professor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at that point is where my voice kind of started to be heard, and it was at my school, definitely, but it was a little bit beyond, to, the word got way further than what I would think it was. um
How did that happen?
but I
How did it get out that this happened?
I had so I was telling someone from Archinect, because I work at the museum, and at the time, Anthony Mori was he's still the executive director of the museum, but he was working at Archinect as well at the time. And I was
And just for
speaking
anybody who
to
doesn't
him.
know, Archinect is an online. It's like an online magazine for architects and architecture. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he was an editor, and I was telling him about something that I wrote, and which was, that piece. And I was explaining how I feel in school. And I had never really told anybody this, but I was comfortable, at the time. I'm at the museum where I feel really comfortable,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and he said he wanted to put it out if whenever I'm ready. So that's kind of how it happened, was, he got to kind of read it and understand the situation from me speaking, and then he allowed me to write it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so it was published in Archinect, and then what happened after that?
Um, well,
And then
I
when
guess
was
the
that?
lot
That was 2015.
last not I think that was last April. So
Oh,
I
so
think it was
last
only
April. Oh, so recently.
2019.
Okay, 2019.
Yeah. And well, I had a meeting with the dean probably a day or two after, and she was speaking about ways to engage Black students, ways to make us feel more comfortable.
And
We were
that's after
speaking
the article.
about outreach, and yes, and she asked if she could share it with her whole staff, and so every teacher ended up reading this thing at my school, which is kind of nice because I was thinking that nobody's ever really going to know
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
I'm thinking. And it's weird because I was always at the school because I had no experience. And so I lived in studio, and because I was just thinking, if I outwork everybody, then I'm gonna just catch up. Um, and I would see professors come up on weekends and be with their students, maybe one or two students in studio, just to kind of guide them through something that they wanted
Yeah.
some help on. And I would be there and nobody's coming. Professors walk up and down. Nobody even looks at me. I'm like, what is happening? And I was just
Yeah.
thinking, am I making people uncomfortable or something? Like, what is it? So I think after I did all this, then it made some people want to speak to me
Yeah.
and kind
Yeah.
of try to understand. And so it was nice because that's kind of the first thing that made me feel like I could have a voice in architecture, um, even if it wasn't through an architectural thing, and that kind of led to what I'm doing now. But
We will return to our conversation right after this quick break to say thank you to our platform sponsors, ARCAT, FreshBooks, and Gusto. Every day, more architecture professionals are adding ARCAT to their workflow to save them time and money. ARCAT helps designers, specifiers, and architects compare and select the best products for their projects using the powerful ARCAT search engine. They also offer data files like BIM and CAD and specifications right there on the same site for free without registration. There's no catch, no cost, no email. It's all free. All your building material information and all your manufacturer information all in one convenient place. Visit arcat.com today to see why so many professionals are consolidating their product search to one task. Visit arcat.com. That's arcat.com, ARCAT.com. Visit arcat.com today. There's lots to love about being an entrepreneur architect, but trying to figure out your financials on your own is not one of those things. Luckily, there's FreshBooks, the all-in-one accounting solution that's built for business owners like us. FreshBooks takes all of the not-so-fun parts of running a business, from building and tracking invoices, to organizing expenses, to managing online payments, all of that, and it automates them and simplifies them, saving you up to 11 hours a week in the process. 11 hours. FreshBooks has your back at tax time too, with tons of reports to choose from. You'll know exactly where your business stands, and you can easily hand over the keys to your accountant so they can take over when it's time to reconcile everything for the year. Try FreshBooks for free, 30 days. No credit card required. Go to freshbooks.com/architect and enter EntreArchitect in the How Did You Hear About Us section. That's freshbooks.com/architect. And let them know that you're a member of the EntreArchitect community. freshbooks.com/architect. Look, 2020 has proven to be the year of many things. But if you own your own architecture business, this could be the year that you switch to better payroll. Gusto wasn't just built for small businesses, it was built for the people behind them, like you and me. Their online payroll is so easy to use. Gusto can automatically calculate paychecks and file all your payroll taxes automatically, which means you have more time to run your business. Plus, Gusto does way more than payroll. Gusto helps with time tracking, health insurance, 401ks, onboarding, commuter benefits, offer letters, access to HR experts. You get the idea. It's super easy to set up and get started. And if you are moving from another provider, they can transfer all your data for you. It's no surprise that 94% of customers are likely to recommend Gusto. And here's the best part. Because you're a listener right here at EntreArchitect Podcast, you get 3 months free, totally free. All you have to do is go to gusto.com/architect and all the details are there. Again, go to gusto.com/architect. You'll thank me. You're going to love Gusto. Get started today at gusto.com/architect. ARCAT, FreshBooks, and Gusto. Please visit our platform sponsors today and thank them for supporting you, the EntreArchitect community. So can you explain, that became your thesis. Can you explain your thesis?
Yeah, sure. So my thesis is on Black architecture, and the title is Unearthing the Black Aesthetic. And really, after I was writing the article, I got this influx of people, whether it was students, it was people who were in the field already, it was firm principals, it was professors, and it was so interesting because I'm thinking, I'm a year and a half in, I don't know anything. I just kind of was able to talk my mess through this thing, and but people, how it touched people, I wasn't planning for, and but the stories that I would hear from everybody are that this thing was happening in every architecture school, and I just, if I was wondering about how all these students can feel this, and there's, however many architecture schools there are, and I'm wondering how many are being shown Black architecture and what is Black architecture, because I started to kind of pose this question: what's Black architecture? And no one can give me an image or break it down. But if I say, what's a Black neighborhood? Is there an image there or a perception there? And there is, and that was like the most interesting point where I found that out, that people have no concept of Black architecture and how it looks, but there is a strong perception of Black neighborhood, and Black neighborhoods gets a negative connotation. The hood is specifically a Black neighborhood thing, and I was wondering how this affects all the people who wrote me or who commented on the article. How does it affect us to be able to, or to be taught design from a Eurocentric um, methodology, I guess,
Yeah.
or with, and if I'm just learning that, and if I'm only seeing things that are in other communities, then that means I'm a graduate and I'm not going to know how to design for my own community. I'll only know how to design for other people's community. And and so I was interested in kind of finding what this is. And one day specifically that kind of just made me really focus in on this is I was riding not too far from where I live, coming up the freeway, and my girlfriend was looking and she found these houses, and she was so excited about the houses, and I'm thinking, well, they're just little houses, and she's in law school, so she doesn't really care about architecture before I
Yeah.
started architecture
She
school.
cares about it because you care about it.
Yeah,
Yep.
but this thing, what she was excited, and I look, and she's like, "Those look exactly like the houses where I'm from." And she was born and raised in Guanajuato, Mexico, and she just had this sense of pride about these houses looking like home, and to see her face bubble up off of that, to feel that. I've never felt that in an area. If I go and I feel like home in an area, it's in an area that's probably the built environment isn't great. If I'm feeling comfortable for LA, I can give an example for LA. Watts, Compton, Crenshaw district are areas that a lot of people are afraid to go to, but that's where I feel comfortable. And
Yeah,
when I
that
start,
was that environment was your home, so you feel connected to it.
right, but then when you start to analyze the built environment there, and you
Yeah.
realize what's there, and why I don't feel that sense of pride that she felt, it's because the environment doesn't speak to me. It's the environment is really, it's actually just kind of aiding in a negative image of Black people, in a sense, or in my opinion. So I was looking at bars on the windows. I was looking at bars on all the doors.
Right. It's built for
Really
security
correct.
and durability. Right.
Absolutely, absolutely, and which is horrible. What does
Yeah.
that mean for the person who lives there?
Right.
And um,
It's a direct
so
response to the way that the people who own those buildings feel about the people who live around those buildings.
exactly, exactly. And I was interested in trying to establish an aesthetic that really speaks to Black culture, traditions, values, experience, and I got lucky and I was able to secure a ground lease with a homeowner in Watts named Janine Watkins. And first day we met, I was telling her about what I wanted to do to try and get her to allow me to do it in her land, and which is right next to the Watts Towers. And we maybe spoke for 3 or 4 hours that first day that I met her, and by the end of the conversation, she said, "You do whatever you want on the land."
That's amazing.
And
How
yeah,
did you meet Janine?
so it's actually through another professor named Michael Pinto of NAC architecture. And the first day of my last year of the MArch program, I was that idea of the Black architecture thesis was already cooking.
Yeah.
And I was just speaking to him. When something takes over your
Yeah,
passion, you're
you
talking to
become
everybody
passionate.
about it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm telling him, he's not even my thesis advisor. I'm just telling him what I want to do. And he said, "Oh, you need to meet this lady." And that's Janine, and her husband is actually the director of Watts Community Labor Action Committee, which is the biggest nonprofit in Watts, and they're having a good amount to do with the project as well.
So she had an allied mission that she wants to improve the built environment in Watts as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. She wants to improve retail opportunity. She wants the built environment to change, and what she's really focused on is creating symmetry with the community. So a big part of what we're doing along our fence line is an art walk, and this art walk has free fruits, vegetables, spices that people can all just come and take for free, and it has a book or a book drive that people can also, everything along this wall is free. A book drive, there's two different canvases, and by the way, our fence line is almost 300 feet, so it's a huge we got a lot of opportunity there. And then there's two frames, one that is for artists who will be doing a residency program, and that'll be a quarterly outdoor exhibit there. And the second frames are for the community to be able to come and put what they want on the wall, and that'll be whatever they want it to be.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's going to be children doing more of that.
Yeah. And then so is are you going to be designing buildings as well?
Yes, and I think so. It's an ADU. It's a 700 square foot ADU that we're making, and it's a live work residence
Yeah.
for an artist who will live on the site. It's really hard for Black artists out here to exhibit their work, so we're trying to be able to make this place beneficial, and we're trying to make it uh, all about resources and how we can we're kind of designing outward for the community, and how we can give them as many resources as we can through a house and a fence.
Yeah. And it's is it going to have a quote unquote black aesthetic? Is that what you're explain to me what that is so I understand what's influencing that design?
Sure. So actually, it was a lot. Really, I would say number one, I didn't look at after my second year, I haven't looked at a precedent that was not from a Black architect or
Yeah.
an African architect since then. And so I kind of was just shifting my focus for this last year on Black's techniques and aesthetics that are really established already, but not, in architecture.
Yeah.
So things like hairstyles, box braids, waves for men, dances, which are really particular to Black culture. And I looked at like the last 25 really popular dance crazes in the last like 20 years or so. Um, it was a lot of reading, all about books about James, or books from James Baldwin all the way to Ta-Nehisi Coates. There was an extensive art research, and I had a bunch of kind of taxonomy lists that you'll see on the website, where I would kind of take characteristics that from Black people, whether it's from literature, music, anything like that, and take words that Black people are using to describe Black culture. And I started to kind of assign characteristics through that. Um, so yeah, I think that in terms of the aesthetics, it touches on Black experience and Black perception, and in the world. It touches on how we dance. It touches on the ways that our hair is styled. It's really in terms of how, or I guess the ultimate or biggest meanings of the house is that it's intended to improve self perception. And I'm kind of addressing architecture with this house. I think how I see this thing is having nine. I almost see this as a case study thing where there's nine different houses in nine major black cities in America, and they all kind of react to black culture in that specific area. But this one right here, this house in Watts, it is reacting to Watts culture, but it's also addressing architecture and the lack of attention that architecture has given black communities. And I'm kind of trying to explain to architects how they kind of have dropped the ball on these black communities, and how we can design for, I guess the hot word right now is design for dignity, and how we can kind of do that in these communities.
Yeah, yeah. Because the people who live in around the built environment affect the built environment, and the built environment affects the people who live around them.
Right.
And if you have an environment of steel bars and concrete walls, it's not going to be very good. The neighborhood around it is going to be influenced by that, and so this is very exciting that you're building this as a case study, so you can see how it works here. It can inspire other architects to do similar things in other cities, and become part of the solution long term. Right? That there's so many. I mean, so many different things that need to be done, but the built environment is a massive piece of it, right? That if we can rebuild the built environment, then it becomes part of the overall solution of the things that we're trying to fix. And so it's incredibly inspiring, very motivating, and it's I I love seeing and hearing what you've done to this point. What is your plan for the future? What do you hope that this does? Because certainly you've had an impact with your article, and you've seen what expressing yourself can do when you open up and share that with the world. It can influence in a very positive way. You're clearly using this architecture and this project in a very similar way, but more intentionally. And so, what's your plans for the future for this project?
I really want this project to be able to. I want the community to be able to benefit off this project, really. And it's not even only the Black community. I definitely feel that there needs to be a cultural kind of imprint on the built environment to allow pride for everyone. And, but I think for this, I want, with that art walk and the health and wellness aspect of the art walk, Watts has one grocery store in the whole city, and it's 10,000 people, and it's a food for less, which is it's nobody likes food for less. You know, you get the fruit is older, they don't have like good produce,
Yeah.
and to be able to provide something like free fruits and vegetables to a community who doesn't have, they just don't get that, and it's because of where they were born or where they
Yeah.
live now.
Yeah.
Things like this, things like allowing a kid to create on the wall, one, introducing him to architecture or her to architecture young, but to have them do a sketch on the wall, on our art walk wall, before the building is up, and to hopefully be able to respond to their sketches, because the community has been really involved in this, and I've got to hold meetings with community members where we go over the design together, and I have to respond to these in real time, but I feel like I want young Black children to be able to be inspired from this as well as students. And I know if they could go and sketch something and just see a lingering of what that is, that it came to life. I just hope that it inspired, because I'm inspired by this stuff happening, and I'm inspired by what people tell me after they read an article or they see what we're trying to work on over here. So right now I'm trying to focus on Watts, but we also have a secondary property in Philadelphia that we're working on the same thing with, developing this Black aesthetic. And I think ultimately, hopefully teaching, hopefully more writing, and a good amount of building is what I'm really hoping that I can achieve. And you already know who I'm kind of trying to speak for.
Yeah. Yeah. How can we help? We have a lot of people listening, and if there was a way for us to help in any way, what could we do?
Sure. So we actually will start our funding tomorrow. We're sponsored by the Architecture and Design Museum for this whole project, and we already have contributors and people who've given pledges. But now we're really into our funding phase. So feel free to reach out to me at Demar at Off Top Design or on my Instagram if you are interested in funding. Our GoFundMe should be up hopefully by tomorrow at the latest, but by next week. But right now, I think in terms of we're looking for funding sources right now, and we're also looking for resources. So I think that's a huge help to help us get this thing built. Otherwise, I don't know. Maybe ask me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's Demar at offtopdesign.com is the email. So if you want to reach out to Demar and say, hey, I got some ideas, I can help. Whether it's funding or ideas or support or manpower, whatever it is.
Even take word of mouth.
Yeah. If you could just share this episode with somebody else and say, hey, listen to what Demar's saying and doing here. He's making a difference. Then do that. This episode was recorded in July, just for anybody who is listening later. It's July 2020. So how long, Demar, is your fundraising planned to go on?
About 3 months.
Okay, so 3 months. Okay, so I will share it immediately now in July. We'll share it on our networks because this podcast will come out later. If the funding is no longer active and you still want to donate, reach out to Demar. I'm sure to turn away your money. So definitely reach out to Demar. It's DEMAR at offtop, OOFFTOP design.com. Demar, before we wrap up, I'd like to ask you the one question that we ask everybody. Sure. What is one thing that a small firm architect can do today to build a better business for tomorrow?
I would say to build better for tomorrow, you can't think about your own gains. This house doesn't even necessarily look how the first 10 versions of the house looked, and that's because of what people have told me how they feel about it. And I think that a lot of architects probably would have been reluctant to change that and say, oh, everybody thinks they're architects. But when you really care about what everybody in the community thinks of something, then I just think that impacts design so much, and that can impact the built environment so much. And people, when it's selfless, people see it. I think that people see it, and
I agree.
So I think that would be my advice.
His name is Demar Matthews. The website, if you want to learn more about what he's doing with the Watts Project, with Black architecture, anything that you want to help, Off Top Design is the website, offtopdesign.com. Demar, thank you for what you're doing. First of all, for improving the world around us, working on the bigger problems in the areas in which you can control. That's something that I talk about very often is focus on the things you can control, right? We can get very focused and broad, get too broad, right? With our focus, we get so stressed about what's happening around us, and nothing can happen from that. When you bring all that energy and all that anxiety and all that stress and maybe anger and sadness to a focus and say, okay, I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to take it and I'm going to do something. You're a perfect example of that. And so I appreciate you for inspiring others to do the same thing, to look around what you can do to make the world a better place. And so, Demar, thank you for sharing your story here today, for being so open about what you're doing and the story of where you came from, what you experienced, and what you're doing today. If there's anything we can do to help, let us know. We're going to spread the word now about your fundraising. We're going to talk about this when the episode comes out. But if there's anything else we can do to help, just let us know. We appreciate you and support you, and thank you for sharing your story here at the EntreArchitect podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate the kind words. I appreciate it.
You're listening to episode 359 of the EntreArchitect podcast. If you'd like to access the show notes, that has a bunch of links to all the things that Demar and I spoke about. The link is entrearchitect.com/episode 359. And while you're at it, take that link and go share it with a friend. This is an important discussion that we had with Demar today. And I want everybody, the entire architecture profession, to hear this episode. So if you haven't shared any episodes, share this one. entrearchitect.com/episode 359. Since Demar and I spoke last July, he and his team have welcomed some new partners. Gensler, Steinberg, Hart, and Studio MLA are on board, and he's continuing to raise funds. So if you're interested, including some merch, go check it out. So if you want to contribute in any way, you want to share your knowledge, you want to just share your support, share your funds, you want to buy some merch, the website again is offtopdesign.com. That's offtopdesign.com. Go click that link right now and go check out what Demar is doing over there. You can learn all about the project and help make this thing a reality. So go check it out at offtopdesign.com. And quickly, before we wrap up here, I just wanted to remind you that EntreArchitect Simple Systems, our new business systems program for small firm entrepreneur architects, is now live. Go learn more at entrearchitect.com/simple systems. Love, learn, and share what you know, my friends. Thank you for listening, and have a great week.
Imagine earning continuing education credits while doing exactly what you're doing right now. Well, you can. Gable Media has revolutionized the way you earn your continuing education credits with a groundbreaking approach. Forget running around town and scouring the internet for credit-worthy courses. Fulfill your CE requirements effortlessly by listening to engaging podcasts just like the one you're listening to now. Our podcasts are designed to educate, entertain, and inspire, all in a user-friendly environment. But wait, there's more. Architects, Gable Media is also approved as an AIA continuing education services provider. Upon completion, we handle everything, from reporting your hours directly to the AIA to storing your certificates in your personal Gable Media profile for your self-reporting needs. So follow the link in the show notes and start earning your credits in the most innovative and entertaining way possible with Gable Media.
Attention architects and creative minds, get ready to supercharge your brand with Build Your Brand, the podcast that's unlocking the secrets of branding success for creatives. Hey there, it's Mark Arlepage, founder of EntreArchitect, and I'm inviting you to join my friend, architect marketing expert Jeff Eccles at Build Your Brand podcast, where he explores the captivating stories of the world's top brands and transforms their lessons into powerful moves for small firm architects and creatives like you. In season 1, Jeff shares the thrilling tale of Southwest Airlines, where he dissects their journey to the summit and distills it into strategies tailor-made for you.
It's important to keep in mind that companies like Southwest compete in the real world, just like you, and face real-world challenges, just like you. You might be surprised at how similar those challenges are to the struggles that you grapple with on a day-to-day basis.
Don't miss out on your blueprint for success. Subscribe, tune in, and let's build your brand together.
You may have noticed that the very best brands in the world are also known for having somewhat unique corporate cultures. That's often the glue that holds everything together when they encounter those rough spots.
We don't do it because it inconveniences the passengers to whom we are primarily dedicated, the short haul, frequent flyer.
Follow the link in the show notes to subscribe to Build Your Brand today. Remember, no matter the size, the journey's the same. Your brand's journey to the top starts here.